what are some activities that you can do to mark St. Andrew's Day, which is coming up very soon? What distinguishes it from other celebrations like Burns Night or Tartan Day? Which are both good questions.
St. Andrew's Day, the patron saint of Scotland, the man for whence, I don't know, I'm going to sound big words, insert here, I don't know. Basically, the guy that the saltire, the Scottish flag, was made for.
Yep.
So what do you do to celebrate St. Andrew's Day? There's not a huge amount of, big traditions. I know that, the St. Andrew's Society of Philadelphia has a St. Andrew's Day ball every year around, was it November 30th is when it is?
Yeah, it's November 30th. Yeah, St. Andrew's Day.
So it's right around there. So you can go to a formal gala, if you will.
Yeah.
They go over the top. They have a procession. Bring in the haggis. They have an entire big thing, and it's formal for that particular one. But I would say that on the whole, I'd say Burns nights are more well celebrated.
Yeah,
than
for sure.
St. Andrew's Day.
At least over here.
Yeah.
I think I would say in Scotland also. But,
St. Andrews doesn't he doesn't get the love that St. Patrick gets. He doesn't get the love that Robert Burns gets. So we need to make up new traditions for St. Andrew's Day.
Oh dear Lord.
Yes.
No.
No. But different ways to just bring it to attention, the fact that it exists. So what do you do for St. Andrew's Day? Do you do anything special?
I can't say that I do, actually. The closest I've gotten to it is just have something Scottish-ish for dinner and have a little whiskey. It's like, hey, to the old country. That's very low-key because I'm not a member of a St. Andrew's Society. I mean, most of the celebrations are definitely either church-based, he is a saint, or they are very formal things put on by Celtic clubs or more often St. Andrew's societies. In fact, it's a tradition that really kind of took root in the U.S. and the diaspora more before it went home. Now, in Scotland these days, it's considered like the first holiday of the holiday season. So from now through Burns Night, it's kind of like party time of the year. But it's still much more staid. There's lots of things you could do just to honor your heritage, it occurs to me.
Yeah. That's essentially what I would do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't try to go out and invent a holiday, as much as I just talked about inventing a holiday. Or inventing traditions. The holiday exists, for the record. I would probably celebrate it in small ways. Let's assume for a second we don't work at a kilt company or a heritage-based company.
Okay. Gosh, those man skirts sure are cool.
They're delicious looking.
I'm kind of Scottish.
I love man skirts in colors. So, anyway, the weird tangent. So, what are we going to do? Daily work in the office or daily wear in the office to celebrate St. Andrew's Day. If it's a casual work environment, if I have a Scotland polo or a Scotland rugby shirt or something like that, I would probably wear one of those. There used to be, who's the company? Barbarian. It's a rugby company out of Canada. It used to make big, white saltire on a blue rugby shirt. It was freaking awesome. They stopped making it. They shouldn't have.
Huh.
But I would wear either a saltire or some kind of Scottish rugby shirt. If it's a little bit more a dressier office environment, maybe wear a necktie with say little St. Andrew's flags on it, something like that. What would you do?
I would invade England.
As one does.
Well, I mean, the tradition of the flag is that it was a sign that appeared from the saint from on high to King Angus in a battle. It wasn't specifically the English. I think it was Anglo-Saxons, so similar. But the point is, the legend is that he didn't think he was going to win. He was in really bad terrain. He gave up. He prayed to St. Andrew and said, "Hey, get me through this, and I'll let you be the saint of the country." And they're like, "Sure." And so the clouds appeared as a saltire in the sky.
That's a direct quote, by the way. Get me through this, and I'll let you be the saint of our country. I guess.
I'm going to give you a country you can't refuse. No, in all seriousness, I think, to me, it feels like a counterweight to Tartan Day. So it's the same thing. I would wear a kilt to work. I would definitely, bring out the saltire, fly a saltire flag. if you got one at home, put that out on the porch for the weekend or whatever. Have some nice, just nationalistic heritage pride in it. It's not necessarily religious. It is a saint's day, but it is not necessarily considered a religious thing by people. So, it is for people who are religious, but you can take it just as a heritage acknowledgement, the same way you would Tartan Day. That's my thinking.
That's fair. Wearing tartan, obviously another easy way to do it.
Absolutely.
But I would probably try to find something St. Andrew's Cross related.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, a Celtic flag. So.
Yeah. I don't know if I would I equate it to Tartan Day or closer? Would it be like, since it's a Saint's Day, would it be closer to St. David's / St. Patrick's Day in those veins?
I think.
But
yeah,
Scotland
but,
has
you're
more
splitting
like
hairs a little
fun
bit
holidays.
there.
We have Tartan Day for Scotland.
Yeah, exactly.
We have Burns Night for Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
We have St. Andrew's, but it's not like a big fun party.
No.
We should just make a big fun party. That's what it all boils down to.
Right. But that's, like I said, it's the start of the holiday season. So with Hogmanay being the peak and then Burns Night being like a more chill after. But, I don't know. I just feel like it occupies a similar space because he is the national saint. He is a mythological founder of the nation. So, and then you have the historical founding of the nation with the Declaration of Arbroath. So that's not really founding, but you know what I mean. So it just feels like it has a similar tone to me. At the very least, here's the thing. I don't need much of an excuse to do this, okay? Give me an excuse to buy a haggis or make a haggis at home or make neeps and tatties or whiskey and have a nice meal. I'm there.
Or wear a kilt.
Or wear a kilt. Well, yeah. So.
Yeah, no, any excuse, and you don't really need an excuse, but any excuse to celebrate your heritage and bring it up as a talking point. I think ultimately that's where I kind of land on it, is wearing something that invites questions to allow you to tell people about the thing, to help educate people so more people know about the thing, so it becomes a bigger thing.
Right. But again, Tartan Day does the same thing.
Yes, indeed. If your company has a restriction on what you're allowed to wear and not wear, or you're only allowed to wear kilts on like certain days or whatever, ask them if you can have an exception for St. Andrew's Day, November 30th. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yep.
All right.
You look like somebody was chiming in on the comments about it or something. Was anybody? No?
Here and there, adding little bits and bobs. They're, their own personal traditions or takes on St. Andrew's Day. As you were mentioning, in your own rebuttal, it seems like it's definitely a smaller holiday than something like Burns Night.
Let me throw a shout out to Scottish Gourmet, because I was actually just redrafting our old St. Andrew's Day video, because we now have a blog on the website, finally have that functioning again. So I'm transcribing and also expanding some of our older pieces that we were happy with into permanent content there. And it reminded me to give a shout out in that article to the Scottish Gourmet. So if you've ever been under the impression you cannot get haggis in the United States, you're wrong. There's a couple places that do that, but in our experience, Scottish Gourmet is pretty much the best. It tastes amazing. It's great, perfectly legal. They don't use offal. They just make sure that they have the flavor profile, the spices, and the fat content right, so it's really good. And you can make it yourself. Like I've said, I've made haggis in a crock pot. So, is it exactly the same? No. But is it great and worth having as often as you want? Yes. So,
yep. I would say it's not authentic haggis because there's no lung in it. But are you really missing the lung? It's fine.
I think however you get the texture and the fat content.
Yeah.
I don't care how you get there. As long as you have that, that's what really matters.
The U.S., for those who don't know, U.S. have a restriction on haggis imported from the U.K. because they use lung, liver, heart, all the other parts of the animal.
Organ meats.
And the U.S. does not like lung in stuff.
Yeah.
So no lung here in the U.S. It's a lungless haggis. But
if you have a butcher,
yeah.
I know people who hunt or people who have butchers, they've made it with some interesting stuff and had great results, like venison haggis.
Interesting stuff.
Rabbit. Anyway, I tangented. I'm sorry. I'm hungry.
Hungry for lung.
Yeah.
Organs. Delicious.
You ever had heart? Love heart.
With fava beans and a nice Chianti.
No, seriously. Anyway, whatever.
I think the one takeaway from this is that it's never a bad time to express your heritage. So let me know in the comments, how would you celebrate St. Andrew's Day, or how do you incorporate your heritage into what you wear or how you act every single day?